Hello, everyone. This is a topic that I've been interested in the last couple of days since I bought the new Rolling Stones album, Hackney Diamonds. And if any of you have watched me, you know I really think it's a really exceptionally good album by the Stones, and I'm willing to call it one of their best they've ever done. And that's what got me into this video, because everybody has different opinions naturally, and while the reception for this new Rolling Stones album is largely positive and everybody's thinking it's a real good album, there are some people that think it's average, as is their right, and there are some people who think it's good but not great, that people are overrating it. A few people have said that as well. Now, what I'm making this video about is I'm realizing something, because I love the album and I think I'm safe and comfortable in saying right now, as of this moment in 2023, Hackney Diamonds is my favorite Rolling Stones album of all since their beginning, for 60 years or whatever it's been. There are people who like the album. They think it's good, but nobody's willing to say it's one of their best ever. And that's really at the heart of this video. This video can go in many different directions and all over the place. And I think in the comments we're going to take this in different directions and all over the place. Now, anybody who has watched me for a while knows, generally speaking, I have very little to no interest in modern music of the 21st century, we'll say. Around the 1990s, I get disinterested. And while there are some albums I like in the 90s and the 21st century, they're few and far between. And I'm the first one to admit that's largely because I'm not willing to really listen too much, because I just have no interest, really. And I know a lot of people are going to be bringing this up, so I'm hoping they watch the video first, so you hear me cover that before I go on. I'm not trying to be hypocritical here in what this video is about, because, I am just not interested in new music. Now, people always tell me there's a lot of good music now. There's a lot of good artists out there. You just have to listen, and more importantly, you just have to seek it out. You really got to look for it. You got to search. And I always say, at my age now, personally, this is just a personal choice I make, I just am not inclined, and I have no interest to spend what time I have seeking out needles in haystacks and finding the odd album that's good today, or the odd artist that's good today. If they happen to come my way by accident, if I hear something on TV or a radio or a shopping mall system, then maybe I'll get interested if I like it. But anyway, to the topic here at hand mainly, I've noticed that a lot of people, usually older people around my age and older than me, who grew up with the old stuff, are not willing to ever say that a new album by an old artist. Now, we're talking specifically here about artists that have been around for a long time, who've been making records for decades and have a reputation, and who have classic albums in the 1960s or classic albums in the 1970s. Almost nobody ever says that an album in the 90s or the 2000s or to today is ever one of their best albums. I'm going to say, I believe with all my gut and heart, that the new Rolling Stones album is one of their best albums they've ever done. Ever. And I've learned from a few commenters that this is a quality about myself. If I do this, and I'm sure I do it, I'm going to try to rectify that and change that. This album, Hackney Diamonds, made me a believer that you can have an album in 2023, say, if you're an old artist or group that's been around since the 60s or 70s, and the stuff you're doing right now can be as good or better or just as good. Well, better is tough. I'm not going to say this Stones album is better than their classic stuff. It's not, but it's as good as their classic stuff, I think. And again, I'm going all over the place here, but I had a discussion with a friend of mine who he didn't even listen to the whole new album by the Stones. He heard a couple of tracks, and he said in one of the comments when I was looking for the record, he said to me in the comments, he said, why are you even buying a new Rolling Stones album? That's what started me on this. Why are you even buying a new Rolling Stones album? As if sight unseen, without hearing all 12 tracks on physical media, on stereo system, is just presuming that it's garbage, or presuming it's okay, but it's not anywhere near, Sticky Fingers, or, it's nowhere near Exile on Main Street, or, Some Girls, or, whatever the album is of your pick, Let It Bleed, Beggar's Banquet. Why do people, myself included sometimes, I want to say that, I'm trying to better myself in that regard. Why do we automatically think that a modern album from the modern era by an old artist can't be one of their best, or even the best? No, but some people may say, I like Hackney Diamonds, but one of the greatest Stones albums, one of the best Stones albums? No way. There's a block. People have a block, a wall, blinders, to the point where they can't ever accept that this album could be as good as Sticky Fingers, or maybe, let alone preferred to Sticky Fingers, And it's not just the Rolling Stones. The same thing has happened with Paul McCartney over the decades. You have some people think that the last great album Paul McCartney made was Band on the Run. Yeah, go see a doctor. Well, you haven't listened to everything with open ears. There's no way you can believe that. Some people say Tug of War in 1982 was McCartney's last good album. Some people think that they go a little farther. 1997, Flaming Pie is McCartney's best album. I had someone today in a comment on one of my videos that actually said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, Paul McCartney hasn't done anything good since Mull of Kintyre. That's 1977. Really? Here's a guy that hasn't heard everything, and if he has, he's not really listening or doesn't care. He's got his fingers in his ears and he's doing la 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 la. All right? So, I encounter this all the time. I'm perhaps guilty of it. Again, this is not new music versus old music, because I'm guilty of that. I'm talking about the artists of yesteryear never being able to ever match, let alone surpass, anything they've done. Now, Paul McCartney, back to him for a moment, a lot of people feel that Flaming Pie is among one of his greatest albums, and I do too, from the 90s. Some people feel Chaos and Creation in the Backyard is one of his greatest albums. I agree. 2005. Some people put 2007's Memory Almost Full right up there. Some people think that the album New is really good. It's 10 years old, 2013. For me personally, both Flaming Pie and New are in my top 5 all-time McCartney solo albums. So this nonsense, like this, I'm sorry to say it, but I gotta say, this jerk who wrote in the comments that the last thing McCartney did that was any relevance or anything good was Mull of Kintyre in 1977. He went on to say, because Paul McCartney needed John Lennon's influence. Well, where was John Lennon's influence in 1977 with Mull of Kintyre anyway? And I understand that some of Paul's stuff could be improved when John Lennon helped. However, McCartney's proven himself over the decades to be perfectly competent on his own at doing great music. And he continues to do very good to great music, I think. But some people, forget it, they're just going to put their fingers in their ears. They don't want to know. Like the friend of mine that I said, we had a discussion on the phone over it. The first thing he did in the comments was to say, why are you buying a new Rolling Stones album in the first place? And then I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, they haven't had anything good in like 30 or 40 years. That's crazy. Or let me put it this way: if you believe that, if it's true that the Rolling Stones haven't had anything good in 30 or 40 years, maybe that's true. But the question is, so how do you know this new one from 2023 isn't going to break the cycle? There are some people with Paul McCartney who have admitted that after a given album, whether it's Tug of War or whether it's Flaming Pie, whatever it is, they've never listened to Paul again. And some of them have gone back and listened to Paul, and they've said, wow, I didn't realize, I don't know, Chaos and Creation was a good album. I didn't realize Memory Almost Full was such a good album. I didn't realize that. I gave up on Paul. That mentality, that's what's got to stop, I think. And I'm guilty of it to a point. Now, the only artist I can readily think of who I dismiss out of hand is somebody I've liked since I was a kid in the 70s, and that's Elton John. Elton John, I love his 1970s stuff. I like stuff that he did, like Empty Garden in 1980, Little Genie. I like Sad Songs Say So Much in 84, and I like I'm Still Standing Okay in 1986. To me, Elton John hasn't done anything worthwhile since 1986, but am I like these other people? How do I know if I'm not really listening to all Elton John's new albums completely all the way through with an open mind and not saying, which a lot of these people are doing. You can tell when you talk to them. You can tell when you read their comments. They're just not buying it. They got Shield, and there's no way anything by the Stones is going to be as good as Sticky Fingers. There's no way anything new by Paul McCartney or anything new, let's say the last 20 years, can match anything he did with Band on the Run or something. You know, there's just no way. Elton John, what was his last great album? I don't know. That's the one artist I can think of where I'm kind of putting up like a automatic wall, and I can't think it's possible. But anyway, I want to make this a little shorter, so I'm going to end this. I want to know what your thoughts are, but you know, I really have learned through this Rolling Stones album that an old artist can have a really, really good album that arguably could be among their best in the top 3, top 5, dare I say the best. That's pushing it right now, but I don't know why they think it's impossible. Why is that impossible? It's because of preconceived ideas and notions and things, I believe. Yeah, this was a fun video to make. Can't wait to see the answers and responses and comments and opinions.